So, guys, we've come to our On Tap.
On Tap.
Yeah, got the beer of the night.
Come
Ready
on
to
now.
go, man. Continuing the season of America 2.0.
All right.
A system that works. And this is so poignant. I mean, like, dude, we couldn't have really kind of lined this out better because in this On Tap, guys, we're going to cover redoing our economic system and redoing our justice system.
Okay.
And as many of you know, of the recent happenings as far as injustices when it comes to the justice system and terrible verdicts and whatnot that are happening, it is long overdue for us to begin to rethink how this all kind of works.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Because
maybe end on a happy note.
I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
I know, right? Why would you do this? She ain't gonna never come back. She gonna be like, that was a downer. I'm not coming back to talk to these fools ever again.
Dude, I don't know, man. I don't know. But okay, so we can start.
Okay, so let's start.
Do you want to start on the justice system, and that way we can end on?
Let's start on
the
the
economic
justice
system. Is way more happy.
Yes.
They're talking about the American justice system.
Exactly. Talking about money, great as long as you got it. All right. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay.
Right,
so yeah, let's go ahead and talk about the justice system right now.
Redoing. If we had to reconstruct the American justice system,
okay,
what's the first thing you would do, Tobias?
Okay. First thing I would do if I was reconstructing the justice system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I would say that the one thing that we probably need to do, which is something that kind of sucks because it's been to some degree America's saving grace, which is something we've talked about, is that like our system is to some degree slow, which has always been to some degree a good thing for America.
But democracy is slow.
Democracy, so it has saved us from some idiot getting power and just changing everything.
Yeah, or so we thought.
Or so we thought. Now, the problem is that a lot lately is that our system is now so muddied that nothing can happen with any sort of urgency, meaning that we can all sit down and agree that something needs to change.
Yeah. And
we don't kid ourselves. We know that change is a decade away sometimes. We sit back and look at certain things and, why doesn't this move faster? Why doesn't that move faster? Why, when you get, like the idea of you get a speeding ticket and, for your speeding ticket, your court date is set 3-4 months away. It's like, can I not just pay you right now for this speeding ticket? Or is this something that has to go through a system of then somebody else has to see it and then somebody else has to go through? It's like, well, everything is so slow that, we do end up in situations like this. I think that, right now, I mean, if we're starting on the darkest note, of course today, we, yesterday, I mean, you end up getting the Breonna Taylor verdict.
Yeah.
For something that that you can see that even when the Breonna Taylor situation happened, everyone, even people on the right, thought, no-knock warrants are stupid. Like, we shouldn't be doing no-knock plainclothes officer warrants. The fact that an officer can just bust in your house with regular clothes on and just try to arrest you at gunpoint is ridiculous. And everyone agreed to that. Everybody agreed, like the right, the left, everybody agreed, like that's ridiculous. Now, the thing is that we probably agreed that that's ridiculous 2 decades ago. But the idea is that, what ended up happening is that, in a big part of the reason that she didn't get the justice that she should have gotten was that what ended up happening was that they finally just changed the law. It was just because, and it's like I had spoken about the fact that once you change the law, then you can't then hold the officer accountable. Because the officer was just doing exactly what the law said he could do, which is bust in somebody's house and try to arrest them at gunpoint. And if they fight back, I'm allowed to get into a gunfight with this man.
Yeah.
So once you say, okay, the law was wrong and you change the law, then you kind of, at that point, absolve the officer of any wrongdoing because he was just doing what the court system said he was allowed to do. Yeah. But the fact that it took all of this to get rid of a law that we all thought was crazy is just bananas. So I would just speed up. That would be the first thing I would do to our justice system. Speed it up a little bit.
Okay. Well, I think you kind of made me think about some stuff as far as like, you know, when we break down the justice system, it's really what 3, maybe 4 components. It's the interpretation of the law, the enforcement of the law, and the creation of the law. I think in that space, especially with Breonna Taylor, I think all 3 failed, right? So like the law was stupid, like you said. The enforcement of the law was stupid, and then how we interpreted the law afterward, the shit that happened was also dumb. And so, in going off of that, if we want to improve this thing kind of going forward, I think the hardest tool to change would be the enforcement of the law and the interpretation of the law. And that requires a shift in how we elect our judges. And that requires a shift in how long our judges can stay on the bench. That requires redoing police departments and stuff. Yeah. And this is where, when we talk about redoing America's justice system, another thing that kind of is America's saving grace, that kind of is a crux to us in this kind of situation, is federalism, right? So like this breakdown of like the separation of state and national and local government is really kind of the biggest crux to us in reforming our entire nation's kind of justice system. Yeah. Because instead of dealing with one police department, I'm not advocating for a nationalized police department, guys. But maybe I need to analyze it, because maybe I could. I mean, maybe one day I would. But but it's like, I'm not, you know, instead of reforming one police department, we have to reform thousands. Yes. Like every time we try to push for, or even the sheriff system, right? So like the sheriff system is a whole nother thing, relic that probably needs to be done away with, right? Yes. But we have to do this for every single local jurisdiction.
Come on, man.
And so like, California might get it, but Georgia doesn't. Yes. Yeah, New York might get it, but Minnesota don't. You know what I'm saying? And so like, we have these spotty ass reform results where it's like, man, I thought we passed body cams. Yeah, they did, but you know, the Obama administration put up enough funding for them to get body cams, but they decided, you know, this XYZ department decided that they didn't want it, and this department decided that they didn't have to have them on, and this department decided that if you was going through this certain situation, you can cut them off. Bullshit like that now leads to spotty execution. Yes. And so now we're sitting back thinking like, well, what the hell happened? Well, what happened was federalism. It's like, we have to reform everybody, and we have to depend on the leadership at all those levels agreeing with the national consensus, which it doesn't oftentimes. You know, the backwoods ass sheriff, you know, in the middle of Mississippi,
who is just going drunk with power for the past 30 years and believes he's
it's not changing the
lord of this area. It's like,
you better get out of my town. Yes, you know, that type of shit. Like, that's what they, but it's how many of them exist. Yes. So we're talking about, this is where we may need to look at nationalizing. Now that I know I'm not advocating for it, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know how else we're going to get the whole scale reform in law enforcement that we need. Yes. And that's a whole nother issue. But then we talk about judges. So judges is a whole, how we elect our judges is tough, because people don't give a shit about judges. I mean, like when on the ballot, check, because it'd be 1,000 of them, right? Yes. And nobody knows who these people are, exactly what they do. Is just incumbent, judge, blah blah blah, and everybody else, and people just vote for the incumbent. Yeah. And what winds up happening is you have these people who are nefarious, these people who are really pawns of the criminal of the prison industrial complex. Yes. Getting paid. I mean, this ain't conspiracy theory.
Oh,
this
is not truth.
At all. Many of these judges are getting paid to send largely young African American men and women to jail to fill these prisons, so that these prison companies can stay paid. Yes. That is a thing, right? Yes. That's not a political statement at all.
No, and it's not a conspiracy theory. It's just a thing.
It's been proven several times. It's been proven.
It's just that's the way it works.
Yeah, you know? and so how do we solve that shit is going to be our biggest problem. It's going to be our biggest hurdle. And so and I don't have any easy fixes, you know? I just don't. And it's not going to be quick, and that's the tough part, because everybody wants kind of a very quick solution or something that's going to change the whole situation now.
Exactly.
It's like, man, we have a lot to unravel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that first of all, people need to be equal in the eyes of the law, and they're not. There's people that clearly have immunity. It is absolute bullshit that the one person that was indicted was indicted for the shots that missed, was indicted for the shots that hit the wall and could have hit somebody.
Which is the wildest
thing.
Right.
You were indicted for the shots that you missed. You targeted and hit.
But see, the eyes of the law are those judges, right?
Yes.
And the eyes of the law are those DAs, and that's what we're looking at. I mean, our last episode was speaking about like term limits and trying to kind of control that kind of shit, right? Like if we can have term limits, we can limit the power of those, and we won't have Sheriff Joe Buddy, just sitting up here for years as a sheriff, ruling over these counties with his dumb ass. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's like,
and I think, man, look, this year, me and my wife were looking at just judges, the different judges who are on the ballot, and it's so interesting just how different they are. Like they are just vastly different from each other, and you need to really be thinking about like, hey, if I ever get caught up in something, who do I want sitting up there on that podium? What I'm saying? Because it really is you're looking at judges who say that they kind of align themselves with the same thing. They're all about justice and blah blah blah, and they're all about this. But then you get them to talking, and you start to realize like these two people are not at all similar, and you need to but they both say that they're both Democrats, and they both say that they're both this, and they both don't like Trump. It's like, not liking Trump is a vast scale. It's like, so you need to, it definitely needs to be more popular. They need to, I don't know, man, maybe they need to start making rap songs or something. They need to be more popular.
Did you speaking of that and civic activism, did you see the Atlanta strippers ad for voting?
Yes. Woo, Come on now.
Oh man, that is the finest of civic engagement.
Come on now. I'm gonna hit them where I know they at.
So Chany, basically it was this ad that was released by, I don't know if it was a certain strip club or whatever,
sure,
but it was these dancers who were like, you need to get your booty to the club. That was the tagline. Get your booty to the club. While ass was clapping on the video. And it was just, I was like, this is genius. This is genius. Because at the end of the day, it's like, man, everybody, it's like Obama says, like the biggest issue with voting and voting power is like cynicism, right? It's like, no, that is your power, bro. Like that is your say in how government ran. If we are all saying forget it, then the people who actually know that is power will just have all of the power. And so I just really enjoy seeing every level in every every section of society, like, get out there and vote.
That was a big part of Cambridge Analytica's that was a lot of their strategies. Like Cambridge Analytica would help people win votes, and one of their primary strategies to help people win elections was, we don't have to get more people to vote for you. We can just convince the other side that voting doesn't work, and then they won't show up, and then you'll win the election. And it's like, we'll tell them we'll get one of their pop stars to say something about not really ever voting, and then half of them won't show up and you'll win the election.
And for those of you who haven't watched The Great Hack on Netflix, please check it out. It will change your fucking mind.
It's the wildest documentary. I'm a documentary watcher, and that is probably one of the wildest documentaries I've ever seen. And it's just about how Cambridge Analytica was rigging elections around the world.
And rigging is a tough thing.
Okay,
influencing.
Influencing.
Yeah, so Cambridge Analytica is a political marketing machine, essentially, that was using advanced tactics to influence elections. So they would take your information from social media, and they would say, all right, we see that you like X, Y, and Z. We're going to target ads to you in this way based upon X, Y, and Z. And so they would begin, and like he was saying, they knew that they didn't have to convince a whole base of anything. They just had to move what they call these, impressionables or persuadables.
Yes, exactly.
They just had to move the persuadables enough out of the way to where their candidate will win, and it happens every time.
Yes,
and in fact, in 2016, it came to revelation that a lot of their strategies were at play.
Yeah.
And it worked. It worked.
Yeah. And some of their strategies, which were really crazy, was that they even had strategies for targeting people who weren't on social media. And they were just like, oh, you're not on social media? Cool. Well, I know your 6 friends are. And if I can just convince your 6 friends to do this, you'll follow along with whatever your 6 friends say. You'll kind of go along with them. So it's like, yeah, you can try to avoid us, but okay, cool. I'll catch your auntie, your uncle, I'll catch your best friend and your other friend, and I'll just influence them enough that they'll eventually get it back to you, and then I'll see your needle move. And I was like, this is actually wild. This is actually the wildest, you know. But that was But
all of that, we went off on a tangent. But no, when we look back at reforming the justice system, fixing how we elect our judges, fixing how we enforce the law, which is the police departments, again, you know, is a whole nother story. What
you brought up about the idea that, you know, the law needs to see everyone equally. There is a portion of that I, you know, it's one of those things where someone's I recently saw an article about some young black boy who asked the judge to basically try him as a white man, and everybody thought it was a joke. And what they basically showed was that some lawyers showed that like this young black boy wasn't joking. He had actually done his research and saw how that case had been tried for other white people and how that case had been tried for black people. And he brought it to the judge and said, hey, this is how you've been judging the white guys who do exactly what I did, and this is how you've been judging the black guys who did what I did. I want you to judge me the way you judge them. You know, I'm, you know, first time offender, just like these people. And it was like that idea that, you know, it really is a kind of different set of laws sometimes, you know, for different sets of people, whether that be, you know, black or white or rich or poor. You know, it seems like, you know, you hear about the same kind of crime and the punishment for the crime is just all over the board. You know, it's just like, hey, you know, we probably do need to kind of figure out how we feel about this crime and feel about people, you know, carrying marijuana in their pocket. You know,
or maybe it's like something like, yo, man, like, I don't know, dog. Maybe it's something like, hey, man, every year judges have to go through so many hours of diversity training. I don't know. Something it's little stuff like that may help, maybe not. I don't know.
Look, I mean, going to even before when that young boy goes to in front of the judge, even before then, there is bias in the fact that black communities are over policed. So how many people are they picking up off of the street that are white if they're mostly in black communities? And also just the fact that like minor infractions like having marijuana in your pocket or running a red light, if you don't pay that, if you don't pay that fee, if you don't have the money to pay that, you're in jail. And then you come and then something else happens and then you're in jail again, and the punishment gets heavier and heavier, and then you're in jail for 5 years for running a red light. Like that is,
it's insane.
That's insane.
But see, in what we're looking at is like human flaw. Like human flaw, and it's like, how do we eliminate or reduce the human flaw in there? Because as long as racial bias or racism is able to exist, and it will always exist, there will be people who filter into these positions of power. How do we limit that? I mean, hell, look at what the is going on in Florida. They're mad at Michael Bloomberg for trying to pay off the debts of the felons who the people of Florida wanted to get their votes back, their voting power back to them.
Come on now.
And they tried to throw that crap in the way of them of like, hey, you got to pay off your debts, knowing damn well that a felon has a hard time getting a job, knowing damn well they have a hard time getting a job at the level that's going to pay off thousands of dollars of debt.
Come on now.
So by de facto, they would not have their voting power within their lifetime.
Yes.
And you're mad because a guy is trying to accelerate them getting back to their full service status as a citizen and getting their voting right back.
I'm not.
That is madness. But that's a whole. But that's those who create the law.
Well, let's use that to segue into economics.
Yeah.
She's
we got to keep moving.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
Right,
We just gonna keep moving. Okay. Cool.
No. We will.
Yes,
we
okay,
will.
yes.
No.
Okay. Economics.
All right. So, Justice Department, reforming the justice system is going to be a long battle.
Yes.
But reforming that economic system may not be as much of an uphill climb as we're thinking it will be. Because I'm going to say this.
Explain yourself.
I'm going to explain it this way. Because, America is a consumer-driven economy.
Yeah.
Consumer-driven mixed market economy, mostly capitalism, but we have elements of socialism too, right?
Yes.
The consumer decides the end of all of it, regardless of whether they recognize that power or not. When consumers start saying, hey man, I want to stop eating poison and I want to eat healthy, companies start to companies that was meatless and non-GMO and all this flourished and they changed markets because of change of consumer preference. And what I'm saying is we can reform the economic system if we start to lay into pushing those types of levers to changing consumer preference, which then changes how companies produce, which changes what they produce also. And I think that's an easier, I don't know, not easier because you got to get everybody on board, but there are some things that are just better for you, right? Like bro, like eating healthier is not only a better option, but it's a decent pivot. A lot of folks don't realize that, like, yo, the produce section is a lot cheaper than buying them snacks from the process aisle. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's a hard thing, and a lot of people don't recognize that, but it's like, yo, yeah, like broccoli, corn, and all those probably are terrible, but you know, like vegetables en masse, you can buy a lot more of those, and you can buy a lot more food and vegetables and meat than you can if you're buying cookies and shit.
I'll say this: the problem with that, of course, being that, like, even though you don't have to, the problem with that sometimes is that, like, especially we are like the capital of the world, and time is money. Yeah. So now I can buy all these veggies, but now I got to cook these veggies. I have to actually be active in creating my own food, which takes time out of my day. And if I'm having to cook everything now, and I know that, like, it's like everything that's cheaper is just, and it's usually cost effective. It's like it's not that I don't have the money to go and eat well, but I'm just passing this McDonald's, and I just need to get it so that I can go and I can get to work, because I woke up and I'm already kind of late for work, so I'm gonna stop and grab a McMuffin, and I don't have the time to be like, I could cook these eggs that I bought, even though these eggs are super cheap, and I could have woke up early to get the toast and the Well,
that's one. I mean, that's one of the, like, obstacles when we're talking about changing consumer preference. But as far as, like, changing the economic system that we go by, I think that's a politician thing, and I think that's a consumer preference thing. And I think though the consumer preference thing is a little bit tougher, the voting, like the politician thing, might not be as tough because at least localized, like not nationally, but like so if we as people in Atlanta want a more progressive council, we vote for a more progressive council, right?
I just don't believe in capitalism to fix the ills of capitalism, right? Like I don't have the power to change consumer preference. If I just stop eating at Chick-fil-A, is that going to change how successful they are? Probably not. And then there are these businesses that go into certain communities that and certain supermarkets. There's places in Atlanta, in the United States, that are food deserts. They have very little options of what they can actually get. So I don't actually believe in, like, just changing our choices can actually have that much power.
Because I'll say that definitely, because, like, the food, it's like once you get in the food, there's just like, well, it's like you could just not eat McDonald's, and it's like, but there's the only thing in my my vicinity. I don't have a choice but to eat this McDonald's.
I agree. It's tough, like, in that sense. Yeah. But I think, if we look at, like, and that's why I brought up the voting piece. It's like, there are politicians that are now coming to the forefront that will push for changing our market system in a way that'll be beneficial to society. I tend to believe that, and I've said this plenty of times, it's like capitalism is good for widgets, like creating widgets. Like if I need to create like 1,000 glasses or products, I think it's good for that. But when you talk about like things that affect the life of people, like the health, the health of people and things of that nature, it's like it's terrible at it. Like we should never get what we've done and what we've screwed up is we've let capitalism run free across all market sectors. It's like, nah, bro. No, capitalism
you shouldn't have to capitalize lettuce. It's like he's gonna make worse lettuce, guys. You know that, right?
or I mean, this is where we get the industrial complexes from, right? So like capitalism we should not have independent arms creators.
Yes.
Like Boeing shouldn't exist. Well, not, they're weapons arms.
Yeah.
Lockheed Martin shouldn't exist. Well, these should. If we're going to create weapons, then the U.S. military should hire scientists to design weapons. It should not be, hey man, you create a company and you try to sell us what your designs and now that, man. Because anytime you marry the profit motive with life. Things that affect life as a whole, you have nasty outcomes. Prison industrial complex, military industrial complex, the pharmaceutical food industrial complex, all of it is just is a situation where profit matters more than human life.
Yes.
And so we have to pull all that back and put capitalism back into place of where it's supposed to be, and that's producing widgets. Because one thing socialism or a more social a situation where like government, I guess, is bad at is predicting market swings and supply and demand. Like we might overproduce or underproduce something. China's gone through that several times, where they've just there's cities in fact. Like China was building cities at a rapid pace where they was building these ghost cities. Like they was like, oh, we're anticipating so many people moving here and moving there, and you have these cities where it's like hundreds of towers that are empty because they miscalculated, now, the whole situation.
I think that for me, the one thing that to me would change our, some of the economics in this country is that I think that, first of all, we have to start policing, I think, the rich. I mean, I don't have a better way of saying that.
What the hell does that mean, Bias?
And I'll say it like this. Like, and when I say policing, I don't mean like, putting cops in their neighborhoods they do, everybody else. But I would say that like in the idea that like there should not be, when it comes to our system, there should not be more loopholes for the rich than there are for the poor. It should be more difficult the more money you get. But instead, what we've started to do is make it easier the more money you get. Like, how is it that a millionaire has more tax loopholes than a poor person? And I get why we did it, because we were trying to incentivize someone to kind of like, hey, become a millionaire, because things get easier as you go up, and we're trying to incentivize that idea, that
investment.
Exactly. Whereas like, but I think that that kind of ran rampant. We didn't necessarily police that idea. We just kind of let it go crazy. And now all of a sudden, like you have Bezos jumping around looking for who's going to give him the best tax incentive so that he can put another facility there. It's the idea that it's like, why have we gotten to that weird point that it's become that corruption. Like, oh, if you're poor, I'm going to make life harder for you, but if you get money, I'll slowly make this easier.
And then you can actually tie that to the criminal justice system, because I can't remember what country in Europe does this, but for speeding tickets, it's based off of what you make as your salary, right? Because if you think about your speeding ticket being $200 and you make like, I don't know, $2,000 a month, that's a lot of money to be taken out. But if you make like so much, like 10 times that's just a tiny bit of money, right? And like people can buy their pay bail, and then whereas other communities, they won't be able to pay bail. You know what I mean? So it's an unequal punishment because it doesn't impact them in the same way.
I completely have said. And this goes, what you're talking about goes all the way into the courtroom. because
Yeah.
if I pay for the good lawyer,
Right.
and you ass out. And
Well, see,
I got the good lawyer. We got the same charges.
Yeah. The prison industrial complex it is where you get a situation where private companies now have an incentive to lock up more people or find ways to get more people locked up.
Yes.
So they lean on the judges, they lean on the police departments, and then
now we have quotas for the police department.
Exactly.
As the police department says, we don't have quotas. We just have a certain number of people we have to lock up every month. I was like, like a quota? What are you talking about?
No,
Like,
but military industrial complex too, where you have weapons makers pushing for wars.
Yes.
Pushing for conflict, even if
Exactly.
it's not like full scale. We're getting to rap,
Yes.
but
Yes.
even if it's not full scale conflict, like little satellite conflicts that makes them money. We got to pull all that out in order to, and really it starts with getting, like we said last time, getting money out of elections, getting money out of the hands of politicians. How?
Getting money out of the police. They're like $20 million of Atlanta's budget.
come on,
It's
bruh.
crazy.
What are y'all doing? I saw a police department yesterday. They bought laser shields, bruh. I don't even know what they do. Okay, I just know they didn't need them. They were just shields with lasers on them.
Yeah.
And I was like, what does that even do?
Yeah.
And I hope there's not a person without a roof over their head in your city that you can spend their money on laser shields, bro.
Yeah,
I'm not doing this with y'all.
To wrap up on tap. I mean, to create a system of justice. I mean, at least we fully agree to the goal, right?
Yes.
To where people that in the eyes of the law are treated equally under the eyes of the law, receive equal punishment, regardless of their situation, regardless of who they are, their demographic or whatever. That's the goal.
Yes.
Now, how we move towards anybody, it really, to be honest, once we get over this kind of current hump, we got to go full out and say anybody who's not fully supporting that kind of stuff, don't even try to run.
Yes.
Like stop. And then I think, and then when we talk about economic system, we should do the same thing. It's like if you're not talking about pulling capitalism out of these places that capitalism doesn't belong anymore, hey man. You don't even start running because we're going to be against you.
Yeah.
And I think once you look at that, pulling money out of places that pulling capitalism out of places that doesn't belong, pulling money out of elections and politicians, and reforming the justice system. That's kind of the triumvirate of what the new America agenda should be. It's like really across the board, state, a national, local level, politicians, you need to be agreeing to this or we're not going to vote for you.
But the problem is they're trying to pull the moderate votes too. So they can't go all the way over to one side.
Yeah.
It's got to be, there's a little give and take that they're having to do.
And with that being said,
Yeah.
you can't convince everybody.
So we're going to go, no, but it's tough, man. It's one of those things where like this is why these things were debated in huge forums over years and years of time because it's like you can't fix this stuff in one fell swoop.
Yes.
And there's always going to be someone who's being benefited or lessened because of the actions. We, those of us who are progressive, just believe that everybody should receive more of the benefit than the few who receive the lesson, I guess. And really the people who are going to receive the lessening are those who already have way more than what you could even hope for in a lifetime.
Right. And what people perceive is that it's taking, the folks that have money, they perceive that it's taking something from them. And it's really just meeting people's basic needs. Having enough food to eat, having a roof over your head.
Yeah. And that person that has their needs satiated, that becomes another customer for you. That becomes a fully engaged employee. That becomes a person who, it's like, and they see this shit. The very, very top wealthy who have been they've been asking to be taxed more, like the very, very top.
Yes.
It's the middle ground wealthy people who are like not the 1%.
Exactly.
They're like the 5%, the 10%. They hate, like they're trying to get to that level. So they're like everything that piles onto them, they hate it. But it's like, like you still have way more than 99% of the globe.
Exactly.
But anyway, a new and refreshed America would have a new justice system and a new economic system that benefited everybody in society.
And would work on preventative measures rather than intervention, because that's what police are. They're intervention, right?
Yes.
If you go into prevention and invest into those instead of spending, how much percent on your police?
Come on.
So, prevention would help with the economic system and the criminal justice system.
100%.
100%.
And with that, guys, we put our shot down.
Man, we gonna put the shot.
Put the shot in the beer down.
Everything.
All of it. We done drank it.
All
we
of
done drank all these thoughts.
We done ran over time.
By a long. Hey guys, man, thank you all for listening and hanging on in there with us. I know this was a dark episode.
I know, right?
And we got the bloody mallet on the
bloody candle and the bloody mallet. What were we doing? What were we thinking?
Because it's 2020. Halloween came early. But I mean, guys, it's a dark time. I mean, all jokes aside, it's a very dark time. But I hope that everyone out there is keeping their head up and engaging as much as possible.
Mm-hmm.
For as much fear that as we have to combat it with hope.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it may be hard to produce sometimes, but we owe it to those coming behind us. We owe it to those who came before us, and we owe it to our goddamn selves to make sure that this don't slide off the fucking cliff. Because then there are worse things that will await us down there at them rocks, them jagged rocks at the ocean. No, but I just hope that you're keeping your heads up, man. We're gonna get through all of this together, one way or the other.